Hi, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns podcast. Today I am going to concentrate a little bit on the holiday tag that's going around, but I thought I would do a little different because, over time your traditions do change. And sometimes they change due to family obligations or just because you've gotten older. So I'm going to tell you what we did when I was a child. I'm also going to tell you what I did with my children and my sisters. We followed that tradition until they grew up. And I believe my sister in Fort Worth is still doing that even with the grandkids. But, I don't have access to my grandkids, so I can't continue that tradition. And, my kids they have their own little traditions that they do. So, the first question on the holiday traditions tag is, when do you start decorating for Christmas? When I was growing up, we started probably about the day after Thanksgiving, although we didn't get a tree until the first week in December. And that tree we would keep up until after January the 6th, because, that was an old German tradition. My mother was, family history was German, so, and it was also the Epiphany, and you just don't take it down until after the Epiphany has happened. So, and we always had a real tree growing up. With my children, we started decorating usually right after Thanksgiving dinner because we had taken color pages that my kids had colored throughout the years, and we had laminated them, for Christmas scenes, and we would put them up all over the house, just the whole decoration with the exception of the tree, because we would wait for the tree. And we also had, back when my kids were little, they came out with like these little posters, that were probably 8 by 12s, 8 by 10s, that had different Christmas scenes that were cute and kind of kishy. So we would buy a couple of those each year and add those to the pictures. And of course, that kind of thing. What style did we decorate in? Even as a kid, was very eclectic. As an adult, very eclectic. What is my favorite Christmas tradition with the family? Now, my favorite Christmas tradition with the family was not so much Christmas, opening presents, anything like that. But in both the town I grew up in as a child and where my children lived for many years, there was a neighborhood, that decorated their houses. And I'm not talking about just a little bit of decorations. We're talking all-out decorations. And there was always the one fella that was the music teacher, that he had Snoopy and the Gang in his front yard with, trying to think of the name. But they would be playing the piano, and the lights would be going off to the piano, Beethoven's Fifth. So it was always very a spectacular thing. It's one of those things that once you drove off the main drive, started driving into that neighborhood, you turned your lights off. You didn't need lights. You could see. You would drive up the street to see the houses on this side of it. Then you turn around and come back down the other side to see the other houses. People walked up and down the neighborhood. The people in the neighborhood, they often had goodies, snacks, those kind of things. Sometimes the kids would raise money for a charity by having a lemonade stand, hot chocolate, hot cider, those kind of things. So it was kind of fun. When my children got older and we moved to Texas, we still continued the tradition of looking at Christmas lights. There is a place just outside of Dallas. I want to say it's Diamond Lock. This neighborhood does the same thing. massive Christmas displays. So and I think now they charge a fee because it goes for, to help with the lighting, the cost of the lighting for that, whole month of Christmas or however long they keep it up. So, and that's fine. I had no problem with that. But you, again, drove up the street, turned your lights off, or you could park your car. They had a field that they allowed you to park your car and you could walk through, with the kids to see everything. And it was amazing to see. That has always been my favorite Christmas tradition. Favorite place to buy Christmas decor. I currently do not buy Christmas decor. My home, since we are not home for Christmas, there is no need to buy Christmas decor. There are a couple of things that we have for Christmas decor. One of those items has been something that I won probably either at bingo or Christmas luncheon with the senior circle. I found a star one year at a craft fair. My husband and I have put greens up around it. Stays up year round as a reminder of not only Christ, but the whole idea of the Christmas greens and everything else. Upstairs, we used to have a ficus bonsai tree that we put little ornaments on. When our cat passed away, I think now about 3 years ago, not only did my Christmas cactus die, but the ficus died. And both of those were plants that she loved to lay next to and play with. And, she would lay under my Christmas cactus because it was in one of those high perch areas where she could lay under it. And she'd reach up and bat the Christmas cactus. But the year that she died, both those plants died. So now instead I have two items that I got at a garage sale for $1 a piece. They're both kind of Christmas trees. I will insert a picture here of both where we keep the one decoration up as well as those trees. Favorite Christmas movie? So many. My husband's favorite Christmas movie is It's a Wonderful Life. I have never really liked A Wonderful Life. I do like the story, but I just didn't care for the movie. Why? Because as a kid, every year it played where I was at, I was sick. High fever, hallucinating type fevers, those kind of things, and that's what it reminds me of. So that's not one of my favorites, that's his favorite. My absolute favorite was Christmas Carol, Scrooge, the old one, black and white, the very old one, although I do like some of the newer ones. And my husband and I both enjoy Jingle All the Way. These are movies we play every year to watch. Jingle All the Way, Christmas Vacation. We like funny movies. So those are some we watch. We always watch the Charlie Brown Christmas special. It's always been one of our favorites, along with Rudolph and Frosty. Come on, these are old traditions. You gotta watch those. Of course, now, there's a bunch of new ones that we enjoy watching too. We like Olaf. We just like a lot of them. So we'll watch them all, whatever's on, Yeah. Eggnog, hot cocoa, or apple cider. I love eggnog. The family, my husband's family, they don't like eggnog. They don't drink it. So generally I will get an eggnog for me alone. And one of my favorites to make that is to make a eggnog shake with vanilla ice cream. Now I do enjoy apple cider. I do have to use the little instant packets of that. Husband doesn't care for it, and the rest of the family doesn't care for it, nor do they drink hot cocoa. And that is my husband's family. Do you leave out cookies for Santa? No, we never did. Real or artificial tree? I have always loved a real tree. Growing up, we had a real tree. My children, when they were little, we had a real tree. And now that we go to my husband's mother's house, they have always had an artificial tree, and that is what they use. Favorite holiday dessert? White fudge Oreo cookies. This time of year is the only time you can get them where we're at in Pennsylvania. Although you can get them year-round when I was in Texas. You darn Texans. But I couldn't get them, so I kind of buy as many as I can get so that I can have those cookies this time of year. Do you open gifts on Christmas Eve? Growing up, we opened them up at midnight on Christmas Eve. We usually had to wait till after midnight, and then we could start opening the presents. My kids, we opened them up Christmas Eve after midnight. And we generally went to Christmas Mass, where I lived and where my children were when they were younger. Christmas Mass was in Roswell, New Mexico, and they used to do something called La Posada. And La Posada would start at St. Joseph's, and there was always a cast of characters that were chosen, from the church members of the Catholic churches, St. Joseph's and St. Peter's. And what they did is, along the way from St. Joseph's Church all the way up to St. Peter's, there was luminarias lit the way for the path of the boy and girl and they were usually teens, that were playing Joseph and Mary, and someone always donated a donkey. They rode the donkey through town following the path of the luminarias, and you could walk along behind them if you wanted to, and it was about a 10-block walk. Nothing when I was a kid. Now I wouldn't be able to do it. And nothing when I was younger with my kids. We would follow that path. It started about 11 o'clock. And you would follow that path, and there were designated houses that the Joseph and Mary would go up to ask for a place to stay for the night. And, of course, there was no place to stay. And they had, at the front of the St. Peter's Catholic Church, was a manger that was up, laid out, and sometimes they had real animals, but then they quit doing the real animals in the church, and it was just like pictures, posters of animals. But they would lead the procession down the aisle of the church, and of course, by that time you had already been, those that were sitting there had already started singing hymns or Christmas songs. And of course, I don't remember the song. I want to say it was Away in the Manger when they were coming down the aisle, and they would land at the manger, and then they did a little skit, about Christmas and Jesus, and the wise men would come in, and then we sang Christmas songs for about 30 minutes. It wasn't really a mass because the priest normally would say a really short prayer after this and dismiss everyone, and then we'd go home and open up Christmas presents. So, I enjoyed that. And no, I'm not Catholic, but just about everybody in town enjoyed going to that. So we all went. Do you decorate your Christmas tree yourself? We did in the past, both as when I was a kid and with my kids. And my children, their aunts had made, one aunt had made, I believe it was clay Christmas ornaments that represented each of our family members, as well as the other aunt had made some Christmas ornaments out of felt, and these were Christmas presents one year. So they had each of the kids' names and they would put them on. And of course, the kids each had their first Christmas ornament, and then, they would all decorate the tree. Where would we spend Christmas Day as a kid and with my kids? At home. Unless, because I was a nurse, I had to work, and then my kids stayed with my sister. Favorite Christmas smell? Balsam, pine, cedar, spruce, those kind of things. Nowadays at home we just have a balsam candle, and that's fine. What is your favorite thing to craft or make during the holidays? Now that I'm at home, it is making those scrap blankets that I use out of my scraps with the, choosing a main color or dark colors and light colors. Because where I live currently, off to my right, as you go around, there's the kitchen, and I get the breeze that comes through the apartment. And I call it a breeze, which my husband, when he sits in my chair, it feels like a breeze, but it's the cold air that comes around, from the kitchen, back door, around into the living room. So that's my favorite thing to craft at home. Now here's where I'm going to deviate a little bit. When I married my husband and my kids were all gone, we had new traditions with my husband's family. And one of those is when they started decorating for Christmas. After Thanksgiving dinner, you would go up into the attic and bring everything down, and we would put the tree up. On Thanksgiving Day, normally my husband and I would set up an artificial tree in the gazebo, my mother-in-law's gazebo, and put the lights up and everything. We're no longer doing that. Now that she's gotten older, she doesn't want to mess with it because she'd have to go out and plug up the lights, and physically it's kind of hard on her to do that. And honestly, she doesn't need to be doing that after dark to unplug it. My husband's, now, when I was growing up and when I had my own tree that I was decorating, one of my favorite things to do was to put Christmas lights on the tree with the little silver tinsel icicles. And I always liked colored lights that flashed. Although we finally graduated to a system where you could leave them on all the time, or they could flash fast, or they could flash slow. But that has always been one of my favorite things to do, is just turn off all the lights, sit and watch the colored lights, blinking off and on. With my husband's family, the new tradition, they have always had white lights on the Christmas tree. Do not blink. The decorations, beautiful decorations. A lot of them are handmade, either crocheted, cross-stitched, those kind of things. There are some made. And my husband's cousins' children have made a couple of those. Of ornaments each year that we add to the tree. And they have made some origami, and some of those where you took the round circles and you glued them together to make, like, I call them disco balls, but you would just cut up pictures off of magazines and put them together for that. So those are on the tree as well. So it's kind of an eclectic thing. Favorite Christmas movie? When we're there at the house, if there's a Christmas movie on, we'll watch it. Otherwise, it goes to the Hallmark Channel and stays on the Hallmark Channel. And like I said, they don't drink eggnog, hot chocolate, or apple cider. They don't leave cookies out for Santa. And When I talked with my husband, they've never left cookies out for Santa, and they have always had an artificial tree. They're my husband's favorite holiday dessert has always been pecan pie. And of course, my husband's mother, there's 8 or 10 of us that come for Christmas. She cooks enough food for about 50. And she has always made sure that there's 2 to 3 pies and always coconut cake. You have to have the coconut cake, the snow cake. Yeah, I don't really like coconut. I like the flavor, but the coconut strands don't like me. So I generally pass on dessert there at the house. They always open the gifts on Christmas Eve. Now I'm going to tell you about a tradition that my husband's mother does. She's done this ever since I've known her. Thanksgiving evening after dinner, she gives each of us, the immediate family, $100. We are to take that $100 and buy our Christmas gift from her. Now I'm going to tell you about the first year that she did this. She just gave it to me. I had no clue what the rules were. I didn't know they did this. So I put it in my purse and I didn't think anything of it. So it's about a week before we're going back up to Christmas, with my mother-in-law. And my husband said, "Where are your Christmas presents for Mama?" I said, "Well, one's over there and one's over here and, whatnot." He goes, "You got to get them and you got to wrap them." I said, "I got to wrap them." "Why?" "So you can open them up Christmas Eve." "Why?" "I already know what I got. Why do I need to wrap them?" "So you can act surprised when you open them up, so Mama can see you're surprised." Yeah. So we're all surprised by our Christmas gifts from my mother-in-law. I love her, but I think that's one of the silliest things. And then we have to show them to her. The only surprise is from the other family members when we do the gift exchange. That's the only surprise. But it's okay. And generally now with the Christmas Day, how we spend it, my husband and I generally, he'll sleep late. Then we get up and we go visit my son. And generally my son fixes something for lunch. And then we'll stay there for a couple hours because he's about an hour away from my mother-in-law. And then we have to go to my brother-in-law's home, the one with the tractor, so we can see all the presents they opened up Christmas morning and what everybody got. I'm sorry. I think it's one of the most bizarre things, but, I'll do it. Keep the family happy. So that is it for my Christmas traditions. I hope you can see the vast difference in the way I used to do it and the way we do it now. I do also want to tell you one tradition my kids and I had started. I believe my boys were about 8 when we started it. My sons had come home and said something about, "Do you know people have different traditions around the world?" I said, "Yeah, I know they do." So they wanted to explore a different tradition every year from a different country. So we did that. And we would immerse ourselves into that tradition. Of course, the first one that they wanted to do was Mexico, because their great-grandfather was an illegal immigrant from Mexico. And so they were very interested in learning that, because my first husband's family would not allow the kids to learn Spanish or speak Spanish in the home. So, my kids were always, that's kind of silly because we could be speaking Spanish, because it would carry through. But, my first husband's father wouldn't allow it to happen in the house. My husband would not allow it at that time either to learn, even though I was learning, could speak a little bit. He would not allow that to happen whatsoever. So, my kids now, they're learning it, as adults to speak Spanish, and which they are part Hispanic. So, I've kind of allowed everyone to control things. It's easier. I don't like to fight it, even though I'm a little bit of a rebel. And that flares up every once in a while. But now, the only thing I do is I follow with my family, my new husband's family. And I say new husband, we've been together forever. But I do follow those traditions because it's easier than making waves with the family. And it's really no big deal, So, I just thought I would share that with you, that, different traditions, your traditions change over time. Don't be afraid to embrace something new and have fun with it. I am not going to specifically tag anyone, although I am going to just say, tag, you're it. Everyone else who knows, who's seen this, and who has a podcast, if you weren't tagged personally, you're tagged. So go for it. Let's see what everybody's traditions are. And I will see you again soon. Bye.